All right, everybody, welcome back to another rendition of False Nine Show, breaking down USA versus England in 2022 Qatar World Cup. Excellent match, excellent result for the US today. This means it's all to play for now. On Tuesday, if we go into Iran and we get a victory, we advance to the next stage. That is all that it takes. This was a huge draw. What was really important was, of course, not losing, because that put us in a really dangerous position of going home early. And then, of course, we have Iran to thank for beating Wales, because now all we have to do is beat Iran, and we are through to the next stage. Now, that's going to be a tougher match than I think a lot of people are saying. Iran is the best team in Asia right now. They're really good. Mehdi is probably the best striker in Europe that no one knows is the best striker in Europe. He's really solid, leading the line for Porto in the Champions League this year. And he's going to be a huge threat against our back line as well. So I do worry about him, concerned about how the back line, Tim Ream and Walker Zimmerman, are going to be against Mehdi. But USA, England, good result. Well played. That was from the midfield. Midfield was the big reason that we won that game right there. I think Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, and Tyler Adams all deserve a huge shout out for the way they just broke down those passing lanes, the way they pressed the ball in the midfield. They didn't really let England get as far forward as they wanted to. The game was wonders. I think Tyler Adams, for me, gets man of the match. Solid all around, especially defensively. Moving forward, of course, we could have been better, could have been a little bit more clinical. Of course, could have been a little bit more clinical. Pulisic did a lot to create, but wasn't quite, didn't have what it took in that final third. In with that last ball to play, we just couldn't get on the end of things. I think Weston McKennie probably had the best chance of the day when Haji Wright laid a cutback across goal for him, and Weston McKennie just leaned back a little bit and skies it over the bar. But aside from that, McKennie played fantastically, especially on that right-hand side. Berhalter changed the system a bit here, went 4-4-2 after last game's 4-2-3-1, and it worked. It was much more defensively solid. We sat a little bit deeper in a mid block rather than that high press. We didn't try to pin England back as much as we did against Wales, and I think that worked. We were willing to play them in the midfield, and when we had four midfielders, being Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Haji Wright, and Tim Weah rotating in and out, that worked. And I think the other areas offensively, they were both really solid. And moving forward, I think Dest had a better day moving forward than Robinson did, but defensively, they were both very sound. The center backs, Ream and Zimmerman, didn't have all too much to do, and when they were called upon, they were solid. They did their job well, but they were facilitated and helped out by this really solid midfield, and then the fullback areas where we were just really good against England's incredible talent in the wide areas of Saka, Sterling, Grealish, Rashford. I mean, that was the four players that our fullbacks went up against, and they held their own. They gave a good account of themselves. Bringing on Shaq more there, I'm not sure what that decision was, but that's all right. I'm not going to harp on the player too much because he was okay. I do think he was probably our worst player on the pitch, but he was being asked to really get up in Grealish's face, piss him off, mess with him, that sort of thing, kind of really take him out the game, get in his head. And he did well in that regard, which is just kind of physical, a little bit dirty, a little bit nasty, and it worked. And Grealish really wasn't able to do the things that we're accustomed to seeing from Jack Grealish. And so for Shaq Moore, I don't want to harp on him too much. It was a bit of a weird move considering the fact that we've got Joe Scally and DeAndre Yedlin on the bench, and Shaq Moore's never played in a World Cup. DeAndre Yedlin actually has World Cup experience going up against the fifth best team in the world. You would expect him to come in and make that appearance, but that's all right. The team got the result that we needed. I think a lot of people were expecting an England win and a comfortable England win, and that was not the result. That was not the case. England are going to be disappointed in this game. I thought Maguire played really well. He was probably England's best player, largely because of how threatening and how controlled he was on set pieces. We had, I think, 8 corners over the course of the game for the U.S. And McGuire probably had 9 clearances on those 8 corners. He was fantastic. He was really, really solid defensively. Did a good job of shutting down Haji Wright, who I think was impressive in his World Cup debut. He played a lot better than I expected. He's a player that I think, like a lot of us, haven't seen much of that guy. Haven't seen much of how he is, as he's playing for Antalyaspor in the Turkish league, in the Turkish Superliga so far this year. So he's playing well, and I think he gave a good account of himself, but certainly did better than Sargent. The U.S. had significantly less time in possession this match, and yet Haji Wright had more, or had the same amount of touches as Sargent did, with significantly more possession against Wales. So I think Haji Wright did a really good job of being involved, drawing center backs out of position, getting in the right areas. A lot of our most dangerous moments came when Haji Wright was involved in the play. Just got missed on a few through balls from Pulisic or from Tim Weah, and stuff. I keep wanting to call him Tim Ream and vice versa. But he played well, Haji Wright, and I would personally be comfortable moving into this last game against Iran if Haji Wright kept his place in the starting lineup. I think that we, all around, the team worked well together. There was a big balance, or good balance. I like the way that this formation works, because you can go a 4-2-3-1 or you can shift it into a 4-4-2. It kind of depends on who you're playing and changing throughout the game, your levels and your shape. And I think that it can be really helpful in a World Cup where tactically the teams are a lot more limited. I think that if you can play around with that, with those tactics, it makes a big difference. And so getting that moment, or getting those abilities to switch and change things up and give the opposition a different look, give your own players different looks, opportunities to get into new areas for those players. I think it works. Weston McKennie, of course, was fantastic. He's my second man of the match behind Tyler Adams. And I think if he gets that goal, or if he just takes, contributes just slightly more, he does get man of the match. And he really, for me, this was kind of like his showcase for moving why he belongs in the Premier League, or why he should be a bigger role at Juventus. And I think that there is opportunities for him to move on and have a bigger role in a big size club, in a team that's playing in Europe. I think that he's trying to show that he is deserving of that as a box-to-box midfielder, and he did really, really well today. Didn't really put too much of a foot wrong. All in all, the U.S. passing was at times a little suspect, just missing the guy, playing it behind him, things like that, just a little bit out of sync, a little bit out of click, but that's okay. That's to be expected in international football. That's just kind of how the green rubs sometimes. But we were still very solid, and I don't want to take anything away from any of these guys, including Shaq Moore. I would, of course, like to see Reyna get more than a 5-minute cameo. He's a really electric, explosive player, very technically gifted. So I would like to see him get involved more, especially when we need a goal and we're taking off our players who are already tired. Like, he came on for Tim Weah, and Tim Weah really didn't do too much for the last 15 minutes prior to being subbed off. So I think that's an opportunity where Reyna can come on a little bit earlier. Maybe that Greg Berhalter is trying to kind of shepherd or cushion his inclusion into this squad, his role in this squad, trying to protect him a little bit, so that he's not just dropped into the deep end. That is an opportunity, or a possibility. He is 19 years old. He is one of the youngest players at this World Cup, so that is an absolute possibility for what Berhalter is thinking as to why Gio Reyna is not getting more minutes. But I think myself and all other American and Bundesliga fans are expecting to see more of Gio Reyna, because I think he's our brightest talent since Pulisic coming through this system, and we want to see him more. He has real potential to be a really, really good player, and we want to get him more involved in this setup, get him scoring, get him creating. He's fit for the first time in 6 months. Get him on the field. If he's fit, put him on the mat, put him on the pitch, see what he can do in the red, white, and blue. So, aside from that, I don't have too many other negatives to say. I think Berhalter actually did a decent job. I was a little bit worried Southgate subbed on Henderson, and I was a little bit worried they were going to do what Wales did in the second half, where instead of trying to pass through the midfield, they just started sending balls over the top to Kiefer Moore. This is Wales started sending balls over the top to Kiefer Moore, where Kiefer Moore could bring it down and then lay it off easily to Bale or Harry Wilson. I was a little bit worried that that was what he was thinking by bringing on Jordan Henderson, but I think actually what Southgate was thinking was kind of to consolidate, was to play a little bit more defensive, bring Henderson back, bring that midfield position back, and hope that your quality up top can just create. I think Southgate was happy or not happy, but content to get a draw out of this match, and lucky for US, that works. That was kind of, I mean, obviously that's not the best result. A win would have been absolutely massive. That would have given us the opportunity to top the group. But that was never what we were expected. That was never what we were looking for coming into this game. So we won't be complaining about that. But yeah, I think Southgate brought Henderson on to try and consolidate a little bit, to try and play, get the ball over the top to Grealish, to Rashford, running in behind, making these runs through the channels. Balls from Declan Rice, from Harry Maguire, from Jordan Henderson. But we did a good job of stopping that, and I think that's largely down to our fullbacks and our center backs positionally working really well together, having chemistry and communicating. I think we did a really good job, as well as our midfield, not giving players time on the ball, not giving them space, not giving them the chance to breathe, working really hard. That engine, and I'm really impressed with this actually, because I think this is a sign that the U.S. can kind of go toe to toe with anybody when it comes to the midfield. I worry how we line up against an elite midfield, and we did really well. Weston, Adams, and Musa worked their asses off and did a really, really good job. And then, of course, Tim Weah dropping back a little bit deeper. Pulisic was actually the highest man today, or furthest man forward today, which was kind of unexpected. He's more of a playmaker, in my opinion, than he is a goal scorer. So I kind of want to drop him in a bit deeper so that he can get on the ball a little bit easier. But that's my own personal preference, and what happened today worked. So I'm not going to complain about that too much. But yeah, overall, guys, solid game. Really, really big for the red, white, and blue. And now it's all to play for against Iran on Tuesday. Wales, of course, losing. So Wales, they're going to need a win against England if they want to advance through this group. They're going to need a win. A draw will not do it for them. So it is scary. Wales always looks to get a result against England. Wales and Scotland always look. They play just with that little bit extra fire, that little bit extra passion against England in particular. There's that hatred, that bad blood there, and that could work to their favor. So we're going to be looking to get that result against Iran. A draw is not going to cut it for us. We're going to need a little bit more than that. So we'll see. We'll see. It's shaping up. Anybody in the group. I mean, England still hasn't secured qualification. You expect them to, because you expect them to beat Wales, but they've not secured qualification yet. So they could still be going home early, which would be absolutely massive for everybody who doesn't like the Three Lions or is cheering against them. It could be an absolutely huge result. And if I'm England, I'm not too worried about that. I think you just need to get a draw against Wales and you're through. But it's a possibility. And so that's what this is the World Cup, man. Everything is up to play for on the final day. Anybody could finish anywhere. It's a bit like that Spurs group in the Champions League this year. Spurs, Sporting, Marseille, and Frankfurt, where anybody could finish anywhere in that group. First, second, third, fourth. And that's what's really exciting about this. And I think it's a big opportunity for the US, for Wales, for Iran. They're all going to be hungry, looking to go through, looking to play their absolute best football and advance into that next stage. You would expect the second place finish to get a game against the Netherlands in the round of 16, but we'll see who finishes top of Group A, whether it's Netherlands or Ecuador, or possibly even Senegal. You just never know. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you guys. We'll be covering the game on Tuesday, of course, and the rest of the World Cup. So thank you very much for joining and listening. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Black Friday to you all, and take care.